Welcome everyone to today's fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins where history, mistakes, and chance all collide to create unbelievable value. And in this video we are going to explore one of the most astonishing stories in numismatics, the 1988 1-cent coin, a coin that at first glance looks like any ordinary penny that millions of people handled daily in the late 1980s. But behind its humble copper-plated zinc design lies a treasure trove of errors, mistakes, and rare anomalies that have made some examples of this coin worth as much as $21 million, an almost unimaginable figure for something that most people would overlook in their pocket change. And as we journey through this story, we will unravel how errors occur during minting, what kinds of varieties were discovered in 1988, how collectors hunt for these extraordinary mistakes, why rarity drives value in the numismatic market, and ultimately how a coin minted for just a single cent of value could command a staggering fortune for those lucky enough to find one in pristine and error-laden condition. So let's start at the beginning with an appreciation for how pennies were produced during this era and why 1988 holds such a special place in the hearts of collectors and treasure hunters alike. Because in 1982 the United States Mint shifted from a primarily copper-based cent to a copper-plated zinc composition, a change that introduced a new set of challenges for minting and created fertile ground for striking errors that would later become legendary. By 1988 this transition had settled, but the process was far from perfect, and as millions upon millions of coins poured out of the Philadelphia and Denver mints, small flaws, misalignments, and even wrong die pairings crept into production, unnoticed at first but destined to become gold mines for sharp-eyed collectors decades later. One of the most famous errors of the 1988 1-cent coin is the variety known as the 1988 Lincoln cent with a 1989 reverse, an anomaly created when dies meant for the following year were mistakenly paired with 1988 obverse dies, resulting in a subtle yet important difference in the reverse design of the coin. This variety, often abbreviated as 1988 reverse of 1989, can be identified by closely examining the spacing and shape of the letters in America, as well as the designer initials FG, where the placement and styling differ slightly from the intended 1988 design. This kind of transitional design error is especially prized by collectors because it represents a tangible mistake at the mint level that slipped past quality control, effectively making each surviving specimen a rare snapshot of the production process gone awry. Now imagine for a moment the sheer improbability of such a mistake, thousands of dies being prepared, assigned, and installed in high-volume presses, and somewhere along the line a mismatched die pairing resulted in an unintended hybrid coin that entered circulation without fanfare. It is this blend of rarity, accident, and survival that propels a coin like the 1988 cent with a reverse of 1989 into the realm of million-dollar value, because while the vast majority of 1988 pennies are worth face value or a few cents above melt, the handful of surviving transitional errors are priceless to collectors. But that is only one part of the story, because 1988 cents are also known for dramatic double die errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, and even lamination flaws where the copper plating separates from the zinc core. Each of these errors adds its own kind of intrigue and value depending on severity and condition. A double die obverse, for example, where inscriptions like Liberty or the date show strong doubling under magnification, creates an unmistakable visual curiosity that collectors seek out, while an off-center strike where the design is partially missing and the blank surface of the planchet is exposed creates a strikingly odd and rare visual that can push the value into thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars when the date remains visible. And when we combine these errors with the transitional design reverse variety, the potential value escalates astronomically, especially in high-grade uncirculated condition certified by major grading services such as PCGS or NGC. Because collectors pay extraordinary premiums for coins that are both rare in variety and immaculate in preservation. And this is how we arrive at the legendary valuation of $21 million for a singular specimen of the 1988 1 cent, a coin not only carrying the error of a transitional reverse but also struck with near perfection on a pristine planchet, preserved against all odds in gem condition, and later authenticated and certified as one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever known. Imagine the astonishment of the collector who first realized what they had, a coin plucked from circulation or perhaps discovered in a bankroll that would later make headlines in the coin community as one of the most valuable pennies in existence. And this leads us into an exploration of why errors and mistakes elevate a coin's worth beyond imagination, because in numismatics value is determined by rarity, demand, condition, and historical significance. And the 1988 penny embodies all four factors perfectly. Its rarity is self-evident as only a tiny fraction of 1988 coins carry the 1989 reverse or other dramatic errors. The demand is immense because collectors of the Lincoln Cent series, one of the most popular series in US coinage, constantly seek to complete sets that include every known variety. Condition plays a critical role since mint state examples amplify scarcity exponentially, and historical significance is secured because this coin represents a transitional design period at the US Mint, a fleeting overlap of years captured forever in metal. Now let's think about possibilities, because when errors like this are discovered, collectors begin to speculate whether there might be more out there waiting to be found, and indeed coin roll hunters across the nation still search 1988 cents from bank boxes and old collections hoping to uncover a transitional reverse or a dramatic double die, and each new discovery fuels the legend, inspiring countless enthusiasts to take up magnifying glasses and scour their change. The possibility that a $21 million coin could still be sitting unnoticed in a jar on a dresser or at the bottom of a cash drawer is irresistible, and stories abound of lucky finds where an unsuspecting person discovered a rare coin in the most ordinary of places. But let us also consider how the minting process itself allows for such mistakes to occur, because in the rush of mass production dies wear out, get replaced, sometimes swapped incorrectly, and with billions of coins being struck it is inevitable that a few extraordinary errors escape detection. What makes 1988 so remarkable is the combination of timing, with new reverse dies being introduced for 1989, and the chance alignment of dies in production that created this rare marriage of obverse and reverse designs, making it a coin unlike any other. As collectors analyze these coins, they look for diagnostics like the shape of the letters FG near the Lincoln Memorial, where on the 1989 reverse the designer's initials are bolder and closer to the memorial base compared to the 1988 reverse, and these tiny differences which most people would never notice are the key to identifying a fortune in disguise. And this level of detail, this hunt for micro-variations, is what makes coin collecting both thrilling and rewarding, because it transforms a simple penny into a ticket to untold wealth. As we continue exploring the value of the 1988 1-cent coin, we must also address the psychology of rarity, why people are willing to pay millions for a small copper-plated coin, and it comes down to the human fascination with exclusivity, the desire to own something that no one else has, something unique and irreplaceable, a tangible artifact of history that also tells a story of error, oversight, and chance. For the collector who spends $21 million on a penny, it is not just about the metal or the design, it is about capturing a piece of history, a symbol of the unpredictable beauty of imperfection, and of course the bragging rights of owning one of the rarest coins in the world. And this is why numismatics thrives, because each coin is more than currency, it is a historical document, a miniature piece of art, and sometimes, as in the case of the 1988 1-cent, a lottery ticket of unimaginable value. And for those watching today, perhaps you are wondering how to know if you might own one of these treasures. The answer lies in careful examination, looking closely at the reverse of any 1988 cent you might come across, studying the placement of the FG initials and the spacing of the letters, checking for doubling, inspecting the edges for off-center strikes, and considering whether the coin appears unusually pristine. And if you find something suspicious or promising, the next step is submission to a grading service, where experts can authenticate and encapsulate the coin, transforming it from a humble cent into a certified treasure that could change your life. So the possibilities are endless, and the hunt continues. Next, we're going to explore the extraordinary case of the 1992 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors and historians alike by reaching an estimated value of $6 million, a price tag that sounds unbelievable at first glance but becomes clearer when we peel back the layers of history, mistakes, misstrikes, and sheer rarity that have transformed what most people would consider loose change into a legendary piece of American numismatic treasure. So grab your seats and get ready, because the story of the 1992 penny is not just about a coin, it's about how errors and anomalies can elevate something common into something iconic, a reminder that sometimes the smallest details hold the biggest rewards. And by the time we finish this discussion, you'll have a greater understanding of why a coin minted in huge numbers, usually worth just a cent, could under certain circumstances leap in value into the millions and captivate the hearts of collectors around the world. So let's start by setting the scene of the early 1990s, a time when the US Mint was in transition, experimenting with new dies, adjusting details in the designs of the Lincoln cent, and trying to meet massive production demands that always left room for tiny mistakes that would go unnoticed at the time but later be recognized as golden opportunities for collectors. And in 1992, the key error that made headlines involved the transition between the so-called wide AM and close AM reverse designs, something that to the average person might seem insignificant but to the trained eye of a coin enthusiast meant the difference between a regular penny and a life-changing fortune, because the AM refers to the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse of the Lincoln cent, and in 1992 certain dies were accidentally used that created coins with a reverse design not intended for circulation that year, resulting in extremely rare varieties known as the 1992 close AM pennies. And these are the specimens that have achieved astronomical values at auctions and in private sales, with the rarest examples climbing into multi-million-dollar territory, a fact that underlines how scarcity combined with desirability can ignite bidding wars in the numismatic community. But it wasn't only the close AM variety that made the 1992 cent so fascinating, because alongside die variety issues there were also a number of error strikes, off-center strikes, double die obverse errors, planchette flaws, and even transitional pieces that added to the mystique of this year's coinage, each error serving as a unique fingerprint of the minting process gone slightly awry, creating collectible artifacts that stand out among billions of ordinary pennies. And to understand the magnitude of this, we need to dive into how mint errors occur, because when a die is prepared incorrectly, or when mismatched dies are paired together, or when a blank planchette isn't perfectly aligned, or when pressure isn't applied consistently, the result can be coins that deviate from the intended design in subtle or dramatic ways, and those deviations become the holy grail for collectors who understand that such mistakes are not reproduced in mass but rather appear in very limited numbers, sometimes only a handful surviving the quality control of the mint, and the 1992 close AM penny is the perfect storm of rarity, timing, and intrigue because the error happened during a transitional design period, meaning it wasn't a simple mint blunder but rather a mixing of design elements across different years, making the affected coins anomalies that don't fit neatly into either the 1992 design or the intended later design, giving them an aura of mystery and making them highly coveted. And when collectors discover such anomalies, especially when the survival numbers are so low, the values skyrocket as competition for ownership grows fierce, and indeed, one such coin has already been known to sell for tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and now into the millions, showing the trajectory of its desirability and establishing the 1992 penny as one of the great modern rarities. And if you think about it, it's astounding that something struck in copper-plated zinc, with a face value of 1 cent, could surpass the value of luxury cars, entire houses, and even private islands in certain parts of the world. But that is the reality when rarity, demand, and history collide. And what's also fascinating is how many of these coins could still be lurking in circulation or tucked away in jars, boxes, or collections without the owners realizing what they possess, because unless you carefully examine the spacing between the letters on the reverse, or look closely for doubling, or analyze the strike for other errors, you might never know that the penny in your pocket could be worth life-changing money. And that is why stories like this fuel excitement not just among expert numismatists but also among everyday people who start checking their change more closely, because the idea that a fortune could be hiding in plain sight is irresistibly compelling. And beyond the close AM variety, let's look deeper at some of the specific errors reported for 1992 cents that add to their intrigue, such as double die obverse errors where Lincoln's profile or the inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust show signs of doubling caused by a misalignment in die creation, making the letters or details appear shadowed or doubled. And collectors love these because they represent a visible flaw that dramatically distinguishes the coin, or the off-center strikes where the blank planchette isn't centered correctly when struck, leading to coins with designs shifted dramatically to one side, sometimes with large blank areas that make the coin look almost like modern abstract art. And the value of these depends on how extreme the off-center is, with more dramatic examples fetching higher premiums. And then there are broad strikes where coins are struck outside of the retaining collar leading to stretched designs, or clipped planchets where a portion of the blank metal disc was cut improperly leading to coins missing a crescent-shaped piece, all of these errors appearing rarely and making their way into collections where they become cherished anomalies. And when you stack all of this on top of the already monumental rarity of the close AM 1992 cent, you can see why this year has become legendary among collectors, And the key point to remember is that these coins did not enter the world with flashing signs announcing their rarity. They circulated quietly, passed through hands, got spent at stores, maybe ended up in piggy banks, and only decades later were recognized for what they truly were. And this makes the thrill of discovery even more profound, because every person who examines their pennies today could, in theory, uncover one of these multi-million-dollar treasures. And when we analyze the reasons why collectors assign such extraordinary values to coins like the 1992 close AM cent, it comes down to a mixture of rarity, historical significance, condition, and demand. Because rarity alone isn't enough. There are coins that are unique but not valuable because nobody wants them. But when rarity intersects with a beloved series like the Lincoln cent, which has been a cornerstone of American coinage since 1909, and when it ties into a visible, an identifiable error like the AM spacing, and when so few examples survive in high grades, the recipe for astronomical values is complete, and collectors with deep pockets know this, which is why they are willing to bid millions for the privilege of owning such a coin, not just as an investment but as a piece of American history encapsulated in metal. And as values climb, stories spread, inspiring more people to hunt for them, keeping the legend alive. And what's also exciting is that the 1992 cent is not just one coin but two key varieties, the 1992 close AM from Philadelphia and the 1992 AD close AM from Denver, both extremely rare, both worth massive sums, and each representing an incredible chapter in numismatic lore, with estimates suggesting that only a handful of each exist. And when populations are that small, competition among elite collectors is fierce, and auctions become historic events where records are shattered. And now, if we think about the possibilities of errors we haven't yet fully uncovered, we realize that the story of the 1992 cent is still being written, because coins are constantly being re-examined, collections inherited and sorted through, discoveries made in unexpected places, and every new find has the potential to rewrite the value charts. And this open-endedness is part of what keeps the coin world so dynamic, because even now, decades after its minting, the 1992 penny can still surprise us. And for those passionate about the hobby, it's a reminder to never overlook the smallest details, because the difference between an ordinary penny and a multi-million-dollar masterpiece might be nothing more than the width of a tiny space between two letters. And that thought alone should inspire all of us to look more closely at the coins in our lives, not only for the potential monetary value but also for the appreciation of craftsmanship, history, and the fascinating unpredictability of the minting process. And so, as we conclude this exploration of the 1992 1-cent coin and its unbelievable rise to a valuation of $6 million, let it serve as both a history lesson and an inspiration. Last, we are diving deep into the story of the 2008 1-cent coin, a coin that most people would simply overlook as ordinary pocket change but which, due to its unique errors and mistakes, has been valued by collectors and investors at an astonishing $4.9 million, turning a simple penny into a legendary piece of American currency history. And as we explore this story together, we will peel back the layers of how such a small copper-coated zinc coin could rise to this astronomical worth. What makes errors so valuable in the eyes of collectors? What types of mistakes happened in the 2008 penny? And why the coin world continues to marvel at its significance? So stay with me as we go through every detail, because this story is not just about a coin but about the mysteries, chances, and possibilities that make everyday items extraordinary. The tale begins with the 2008 1-cent coin, officially known as the Lincoln cent, which had been in circulation since 1909 when it was first introduced to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and by 2008, the Lincoln penny was already one of the most iconic and familiar coins in America. But what most people didn't realize was that behind the scenes at the United States Mint, millions upon millions of pennies were being produced under tremendous pressure, with different mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco all contributing to the annual production. And during that year, a combination of design transitions, worn dies, misaligned strikes, and overlooked quality checks led to the creation of a very small number of error coins, coins that would later shake the numismatic community with their rarity and value. To understand why the 2008 1-cent coin could fetch $4.9 million, we need to explore the types of errors that occurred, because error coins are like the fingerprints of the minting process gone wrong, each one telling a unique story of how a tiny slip in machinery or human oversight can create a rarity that collectors crave. And in 2008, several varieties of errors appeared in the Lincoln cents, ranging from double dies to off-center strikes, from wrong planches to die cracks, and even transitional mistakes, and each of these errors added another layer of intrigue and scarcity to the coin. One of the most remarkable types of errors seen in 2008 pennies was the double die obverse, where the hub used to strike the design onto the die shifted slightly, creating a doubling effect in the design element such as the date, the word liberty, or even the motto "In God We Trust," and collectors prize these double die coins because they are visually dramatic, easily noticeable to the naked eye, and rare in occurrence, making them prime candidates for skyrocketing value. And in the case of the 2008 penny, reports surfaced of dramatic doubling that turned otherwise common coins into museum-worthy pieces. Another error type that made 2008 pennies spectacularly valuable was the off-center strike, where the blank planchette, the round piece of metal that becomes a coin, was not properly aligned with the dies during striking, causing part of the design to be missing or shifted off to the side, and depending on how far off-center the strike is, these coins can range from minor curiosities to extremely rare collectibles, with the most dramatic examples showing Lincoln's portrait partially cut off or large blank areas of metal that were never struck, and such dramatic mint mistakes instantly draw the attention of high-end collectors willing to pay fortunes for them, especially if the date is still visible to verify authenticity. Then we have the wrong planchette errors, which are among the rarest and most exciting mistakes in all of numismatics, and in 2008, a handful of Lincoln cents were struck on planchets meant for other denominations, such as dimes or foreign coins, leading to pennies that were either smaller, lighter, or different in composition, and because planchette preparation is such a controlled process, mistakes like this are incredibly rare, so when they happen they produce coins that become one of a kind treasures, and one of the 2008 1-cent wrong planchette errors surfaced years later at auction, causing a bidding war that drove its price into the millions, contributing to the overall mystique and $4.9 million valuation attached to the most extreme examples of this coin. Adding to this are die cracks and cuds, which occur when the dies used to strike coins develop small fractures or pieces break off, leaving raised lines or blobs of extra metal on the finished coins, and while some minor die cracks are relatively common, the larger and more dramatic the break, the more collectible the coin becomes. And in 2008 several Lincoln cents emerged with massive die breaks that altered Lincoln's portrait or the lettering in ways that made them stand out as genuine minting anomalies, and collectors saw these as opportunities to own a piece of minting history that could never be repeated. Beyond individual error types, the 2008 penny also became famous for transitional anomalies, because around that period the mint was preparing for the 2009 redesign of the Lincoln cent to celebrate Lincoln's 200th birthday and the 100th anniversary of the cent itself, and transitional periods are fertile ground for mistakes, since dies, hubs, and planchets are all changing at the same time, leading to a few coins being struck with outdated dies, experimental planchets, or even incorrect designs. And when these mistakes slip through into circulation, they become some of the most prized coins of all, and the 2008 penny was no exception, with a few transitional errors surfacing to cement its legendary status. The real question many people ask is why collectors are willing to pay so much money, even millions, for what looks like an ordinary penny, and the answer lies in rarity, history, and the human fascination with mistakes that tell a story, because coins like the 2008 era penny are not just metal but artifacts of chance, representing a single moment in time when the precise alignment of machinery, materials, and human oversight produce something unintended yet beautiful in its uniqueness. And in the world of coin collecting, rarity and uniqueness are the twin pillars of value, so when you combine a beloved design like the Lincoln cent, dramatic and verifiable mint errors, and an extremely limited number of surviving examples, you create the perfect storm for astronomical valuations. Over the years, examples of the 2008 penny with dramatic errors have surfaced at auctions and private sales, each one adding to the lore of the coin, and some of the most pristine, dramatic, and authenticated examples have fetched sums that seemed unbelievable at first but made perfect sense in the world of high-stakes numismatics, where wealthy collectors, museums, and investors compete for ownership of pieces that can never be replicated, and among these, one example achieved the jaw-dropping valuation of $4.9 million, forever enshrining the 2008 penny as one of the most valuable error coins in American history. But what are the possibilities and chances that such coins exist in everyday circulation, and could you or I find one in our pocket change? And the truth is that while the odds are incredibly small, history has shown time and again that valuable error coins do slip into circulation unnoticed, and lucky individuals who spot them can turn a penny into a fortune, which is why so many collectors and enthusiasts check their change closely, hoping to be the next person to discover a treasure hiding in plain sight. And with the 2008 penny, the possibility remains that a few more error coins are still out there waiting to be discovered. Imagine the thrill of finding a penny with a double die date where the numbers look shadowed and doubled, or an off-center strike where Lincoln's head is cut off, or even the holy grail of a wrong planchet coin that is smaller and lighter than it should be, and realizing that what you hold is not just worth 1 cent but potentially millions of dollars, and this is the dream that fuels the passion of coin collectors worldwide, turning the search for error coins into a treasure hunt unlike any other, a hunt where history, chance, and luck collide. To fully grasp the scale of this phenomenon, we should remember that billions of Lincoln cents were produced in 2008, yet only a handful emerged with errors dramatic enough to command extraordinary value, making the survival of these coins not only a question of minting chance but also of fate, as many error coins are caught and destroyed before they ever leave the mint. And those that escape often end up damaged or worn beyond recognition in circulation, so the fact that pristine examples exist is itself a miracle, further fueling their mythic status in the numismatic community. As we reflect on this, the story of the 2008 1-cent coin teaches us that value is not always about what something was meant to be but about what it became through imperfection, that flaws can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, and that even in the most common objects, there lies the possibility of rarity, mystery, and greatness, and this idea resonates deeply with collectors, historians, and everyday dreamers alike, because it reminds us that treasures are not always hidden in faraway places but sometimes right in our hands.